Hey everybody, welcome back to DLD Drum School. This is the next in our series of reference videos, and I totally understand these reference videos are not as exciting and fun as our physical performance videos. But if you are here, it's because you must be serious about your drumming. You must be serious about the idea of not just hitting the drums, but playing the drums, doing it like a drummer. So congratulations for having that discipline and patience. This is one of our most important videos because this is going to talk about the DLD Drum School 6 golden rules of drumming. Now, these 6 golden rules of drumming, you will have seen them flash up many times during our practical beginner and intermediate and so on lessons, because they are so important. When I'm teaching, the number of times I refer back to these 6 rules, it's just incredible. The other thing is that these 6 rules have stood the test of time. I've had these 6 golden rules for many years. Every one of them is so important, and I don't have the need to add on anymore. So these 6 golden rules of drumming, when we are in performance mode, really they will take care of so many aspects of your drumming and your style and technique to help you do it like a drummer. So we're going to summarize these one at a time, nice and quickly. If you find yourself stuck on any one of these aspects, we've also expanded in a little bit more detail each one of these golden rules so you can delve deeper if it applies to you. But I think for the majority of us, just to summarize these and get it into our minds should be very useful indeed. So a quick reminder that when we are working on something new, we split our playing into 2 very distinct modes. When we're learning, we are in practice mode. And really in practice mode, the 6 golden rules of drumming don't particularly apply. They may from time to time, but generally in practice mode, just be really clear in your mind. The only thing that matters in practice mode is accuracy. We want to build on solid ground. So when you're in practice mode, go slowly, boringly slow, focus on accuracy, using the mouth to link the brain to the body. Practice mode is all about accuracy and the quality of your drumming. When you then change into performance mode, which really means that you can now do what you've been practicing, but you want to apply this to the real world, that's where the 6 golden rules of drumming kick in. So let's have a look at these one at a time, starting with golden rule number 1. So golden rule number 1 is to keep in time. The number 1 job of a drummer is to keep in time, especially in a live situation. In most situations, the rest of the band, the performance is relying on the drummer to keep in time. So if the drummer accidentally speeds up, the whole band will accidentally speed up, and vice versa if the drummer loses time. When you're playing with a backing track, similar way, if you are not in time, the backing track is going to continue rigid, and you will very quickly find yourself and your drumming clashing with the backing music rather than complementing. The number 1 job of a drummer is to keep in time, so much so that I say to people, if you're not in time, it's a waste of time. And the number of times that I see drummers trying to do fancy tricks and twiddling their sticks and look how many cymbals I can hit, but they're out of time. And I look and I say, listen, sort out your timekeeping before you then add on the fancy, complicated, detailed stuff. Golden rule number 2, if you make a so-called mistake, ignore mistakes and keep going. Now you notice I'm putting mistakes in speech marks here because in my experience, 9 times out of 10, what somebody thinks is a mistake, it's not a mistake. It's what I would just call a slip, a blip, okay? The real mistake is the great big fuss and the grunting and the groaning and the rolling of the eyes that people do whenever they make a tiny slip. That's the mistake. And ultimately, what people do when they make a mistake is to stop. Now, if you stop, there's no possible way that you can support golden rule number 1 to keep in time. So stopping is the mistake. Now, in my experience, one of the most important measures of a professional performer, whether it's a drummer or an actor or anything in a performance situation, we are all human beings. So we are all going to make the occasional slip. But when you watch the real professionals, you do not notice. You have no idea. Because on the inside, they know that they've made that tiny mistake. But on the outside, they smile, they continue, and very often they just make it look like they did it on purpose. So the sign of a real professional, it's not someone who never makes a mistake. It's someone who calmly copes with that mistake, that slip, and keeps on going and keeps the show on the road. And just to finish off with golden rules 1 and 2, they are really the only unbreakable rules. If you go out of time, or if you make a mistake and stop or hesitate, I would agree that that is a mistake. You have gone wrong. They are the only 2 unbreakable rules. Everything else we can work on with time. Golden rule number 3 is to make sure that our drumming fits in. And what you will find as time goes on is that golden rules number 1, keep in time, and number 2, ignore mistakes and keep going, they almost become taken for granted, even though they are the most important rules. So as time goes on, actually golden rule number 3 very often becomes the most important golden rule. Make sure your drumming fits in, and because our instrument is so big and loud and potentially very dominant, I've seen so many situations where drummers think that what they're doing is fantastic and look at me and look at how many fills I can play, and the rest of the band is like, what are you doing? Because it's just too much. It doesn't fit in. Now, how do we fit in with anything? Well, the only way to fit in is to find out what you are fitting in with. If I invite you to a party and ask you what you are going to wear, you need to know what kind of party it is to wear the correct clothes. Because if it's actually, for example, a dinner party, but you thought it was fancy dress and you turn up dressed as a chicken, guess what? You're not coming in because you don't fit in. So make sure you find out what you're fitting in with before you think about how to fit in. And the best way to do that is just to listen. Listen to the music, play it on loop, look at the music if you're reading the music. Get a feel for the genre and the groove and the style and the tempo, and then you can start to think about what type of drumming style to adopt to make sure your drumming fits in. So important. Golden rule number 4 is about transitions, and really transition is just a big word for change. Now remember, the back of your brain does not like change. It hopes everything just stays the same. And when change comes along, the back of your brain can sometimes panic a little bit. So what we need is to stay calm and use the front of our brain to plan ahead. And if there's one thing I want you to remember about transition is the idea of no surprises. Okay, as you're managing your thought processes and playing, and for example, you're about to transition from a verse into a chorus to a different drum rhythm, think ahead, plan ahead, what is coming next. So you keep your focus on what you're doing now, and you also calmly get ready for what's coming next. So when that junction comes, when that transition comes, you smoothly anticipate and move into the next phase rather than being caught by surprise and panicking and then getting yourself in trouble. And you notice I use the word junction there. I always use the analogy of driving a car. If you are a beginner driver, you can't think really beyond your steering wheel and what's in front of you. With time and experience, you start to lift your eye level. You start to look ahead, not just the car in front, but 3-4 cars in front, the traffic lights, a few hundred meters in front rather than right in front of you. It helps us to anticipate and plan so that when the transition, the change comes along, it's nice and smooth and controlled. Now, so far, the first 4 golden rules that we've covered are all practical. They are physical, about the physical control of our body and our drumming. Golden rules number 5 and 6, these are more to do with our approach, a mental approach to our performance and drumming rather than physical. And number 5 is incredibly simple, just one word: relax. Now I know this sounds like such an obvious thing to say, but when you are in the moment, when you are about to go on stage or perform to anybody or in any situation, maybe a music exam, it's so much easier to say than do. So try to work on these methods of relaxation. Very often I talk to myself and it starts at the top of your head. Relax your brain down through your neck into your shoulders. When you shake out and relax your shoulders, you can loosen out and relax your arms, which in turn gives you a more relaxed grip. There's a couple of indicators that will tell you when you are not relaxed, maybe without you knowing it. When we are in a tense situation, we grip tightly. We grip the steering wheel or the handlebars. So if you notice you are gripping tightly on this with the sticks, it's a sure sign that you're not as relaxed. So think about that and get that nice relaxed grip. Something else that we do when we are not relaxed, as crazy as it sounds, is our mouth. Be aware of your mouth. When we're in a stressful situation, we very often clench our mouth and hold our breath and like lifting a heavy box. So if you notice your mouth is clamping tightly, that's another good sign of being a little bit more tense. Open the mouth, relax your breathing, relax your body. From the top down, when we are relaxed, it really does show in the control and the nice bounce of the sticks, and it comes through with your music. And finally, number 6 is confidence. Now, confidence kind of interweaves with many of our other golden rules, particularly golden rule number 2, which is to ignore mistakes and keep going. Now, in terms of life in general, to be confident, we have to know what we are doing. People who pretend to be confident, but deep down they don't know what they're doing, that's not confidence. Very often that's arrogance. So true confidence comes from knowing what we are doing, being in charge of ourselves. So even when we do make a so-called mistake, because we have faith and confidence in ourselves, we know that was just a minor blip, a minor deviation, and the confidence helps us to continue. So very often I describe golden rule number 6, confidence, almost as a protective shield for golden rule number 2. So when we make a mistake but we are confident, so what, these things happen. And every time you do make a mistake, by the way, psychologically, I want you to replace it with the phrase, who cares? In our minds, we make it, I've banged my stick, or I played a crash when it should have been a ride. Well, who cares? As long as you keep going in time, nobody in the audience is going to notice what you have done. As soon as you make a fuss about your mistakes, you are drawing attention to the mistake, and people will start to feel uncomfortable. And if there's one thing we don't want, we do not want our audience to feel sorry for us. We want our audience to be carried by our music and engaged so that they really enjoy the experience. And what you will find is, with practice, the more that you get used to applying and psychologically adopting these 6 golden rules, you will start to notice a step change in your overall playing and performances. You will start to notice an increased freedom. When you make a mistake, confidence, ignore mistakes, who cares? You will see that there's an additional flow, and ultimately you will start to play more from the heart rather than simply just wooden mechanically from the head. So a combination of control from the head and freedom and expression from the heart, the 6 golden rules really do help with that. So really keep reminding yourself of what they are. I mean, you don't need to be reminded because I'm constantly putting them on the screen for you anyhow, but adopt those methods and techniques. It really is so important in terms of not just hitting the drums, but playing the drums, in terms of doing it like a drummer. So great work. If you are finishing this video, you must be taking your drumming seriously. Keep up the great work. Keep on practicing and playing. Remember, everything you do, do it like a drummer. And we will see you in the next video.